Good afternoon and welcome to the Great Sober Sex Forum. My name is Nikas and I am an alcoholic. We'd also like to welcome all the people in internet land who are out there hearing this online. Welcome. As this is being recorded live, we ask that if we limit our names to just our first names, to keep our anonymity, that would be great. Are there any other addicts or alcoholics present? Lovely, lovely. If you'd like to all join me in the Serenity Prayer, please. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Mike, again, my name is Nikas and I'm an alcoholic. If we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves.
My name is Gordon, I'm an alcoholic.
Stephen, I'm an alcoholic.
Jose Luis, alcoholic addict.
Yang, alcoholic.
Ben,
AJ, alcoholic.
Rick, I'm an addict.
Billy, alcoholic.
Rick, addict.
David, alcoholic.
And Nikas. Welcome, everybody. So the purpose of this forum is to have a discussion about sex. So often when we go to meetings, even the sex and sobriety meetings are just that. They're a meeting. It's a one way I get to share about what's going on for me sexually, but there's usually not a lot of crosstalk that's involved. And so the idea of this meeting is for crosstalk to actually be part of the discussion. The thing I attended recently, not too recently, but another sex and sobriety workshop, and when it came actually to the parts about having a discussion about stuff, the discussion got really limited. It just didn't. There was the leader actually would kind of tell people, okay, you know what? I think that's best talked about in private therapy. Which okay, cool, maybe that's true. But at this particular forum, what I'd like to do is, there's a whole bunch of sobriety here. There's a whole bunch of resources here. We've all come across different things. And I'd like it to be that if you have a question about something, or you have a fear about something, you have a concern about something, please bring it up. This is a very safe space. Whatever stays here, whatever's said here is just, you got to keep it here. That's absolutely positive. I mean, we're all going to just be brutally honest with our own sexuality. So, please respect everybody and keep that here. That said, we've all had experiences. We've all run into different things. So if you have something that you're fearful of, bring it up. And I'm sure somebody else here has run into that and has got some sort of a solve or a workaround or some sort of a way to deal with something like that. So that's really the purpose of this. We're going to have the two speakers here who are going to first just share their sex and sobriety stories and give you just kind of a little history. The format is going to be, I'm going to open this until like 2:45. Both speakers will speak for 15 to 20 minutes on their sex and sobriety journey. That'll take us to 3:30. At about 3:30, we'll take a break for 15 minutes. We'll come back. We'll have a Q&A with the panel if you've got any questions for them specifically. We'll go through that for the next 15, 20 minutes. And then what I did is I printed up some bullet point questions, just all stuff regarding bathhouses. So the actual particular focus of this particular forum is going to be sex clubs and bathhouses. So that there'll be just lots and lots of questions and answers regarding those particular things. Every week is every month is something different. And this particular month is going to be just talking about the things that we may or may not run into, or the fears that we have or may have when it comes to bathhouses and sex clubs. Okay, so there's a suggested $10 donation. I'm going to pass the basket around if people could go ahead and do that. That's the rent for this meeting goes directly to the AT Center. Two speakers today this is Gordon and this is David. So this is an open forum on sex. This is a place designed to specifically talk about your fears, your phobias, your apprehensions, your concerns, your questions, whatever stands in the way of you having great, sober sex. This is a place to discuss all of that stuff. Talking about things I've found is the way to sort of take the power out of something, right? So if something has fear, if we're being controlled by the fear of something, if we actually just kind of let it out, it actually takes the power out of it and allows us to be the one in control and not the fear. When we don't open our mouths, the fear is in control because the fear is just going round and round and round in our head, telling us what to do. But when we open our mouths and let the fear out, we suddenly become in control. We're the ones that's actually dealing with things. And I know personally that my head doesn't like to be told on. So that when my head's just doing really crazy stuff, I've found that the best solve of things that I can do is actually just tell other people, hey, so you know what I'm thinking? This is how crazy my fucking head is. And I tell somebody. Keone's a good friend of mine. And I will often tell him because when I've let out how crazy my head is, my head doesn't like to be told on. It doesn't like other people to know just how fucking crazy it is. So I have found that the best solve to quiet, the imperious urge of my fucking head to be able to fucking yak on and on and on and try and control me is just simply to tell on it. It's that simple. Because then I become the one in control rather than my head and my fears. So, if you got any questions today, please make sure you ask them. Or if you got any fears that you want to just talk about, don't be fearful. Be fearful, but let it out. This is the place, and you may be doing somebody else a favor who's got the same question that you do. You just never know. So, a little bit of a little icebreaker story. So, I was trying to think what to talk about this morning, and a dialogue came up between me and somebody else that was about how it was me and a roommate, and the roommate's straight, and he was a little shocked by my confession. But sober sex for me has been. I had a sponsor that told me that okay, so the moment he says, "Are you horny now?" And I was like, I had been up for 17 days, and I was not. I needed a sandwich. I needed a nap. And he's like, "Okay, well, you're gonna get horny real soon." He says, the moment you get horny, I want you to go fuck your brains out sober. And this was not something I'd heard in the rooms. In the rooms I heard, you need to be sober, sexually dry for 30, 60, 90, 6 months, a year. This was the party line that I heard out there. And suddenly I got a guy who's telling me, the moment that you get horny, you need to go fuck your brains out sober. So I was like, okay. Cool. Well, and the reality was that as soon as the horniness came up, it was best to act on it. But the thing was that he was like, okay, look, here's the deal though. I want you to pray and ask God. He said, you do this online thing, right? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, so I want you to pray and I want you to ask God to rewrite all your profiles for you. So whatever's in your profiles, erase them. If you can delete them and start them over. If you can't even delete them, just erase everything. Erase the pictures, erase everything out of it, and put your fingers on the keyboard and ask God to rewrite these profiles for you. He says, I'm sure you'll be amazed what actually comes out. And I actually was amazed. My very first Grindr profile said, or maybe it was BBRT, I'm not sure, said, hi, my name's Nikas. I'm newly sober, off of meth, don't know if I'm a top or a bottom, need kind, compassionate people to help me walk me through this process. Please don't have any expectations because I have no idea what's going to happen. And the reality was I had angels show up, just angels, showed up and literally hand walked me through the process so that I could figure out who and what I was becoming. One of the first people that hit me up on Grindr wanted to make a date for the following Sunday for me to fist him. And he was so my type, but I had never fisted anybody. And I thought, and really, in all of my drug use, fisting really kind of seemed like that was what the wackos did. That was what the extremists did. That was what the really hardcore guys did. And I just was like, I was crazy, and I was a fucking slammer, and I did all, but I was not. And so he wanted to make this for a week in the future, so I knew that he wasn't a tweaker. I was like, okay, because if you can book a week ahead, you're not tweaking. So I was like, okay, so we book it, and for a Sunday, it's Saturday night. I email him, I message him, I say, hey, I'm completely uncomfortable. I've never done this before. My hands inside of you, I'm totally afraid. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to do something accidentally wrong. And he's like, trust me, I've got the perfect ass to learn. Trust me, there's nothing you can do that will hurt me. And I will hand walk you through the experience. And he says, so just show it to him. And he clicked, and he hung up on me. I was like, oh God, okay. So so I did. I showed up, and I get there. The guy's got a big butt plug in his butt, and he's laying face down. And I'm like, oh my God, he's laying face down. How's he gonna talk to me? So he's like, okay, come in and take the butt plug out. And I'm like, oh God, he is. Thank God, he's walking me through. So I take the butt plug. He said, okay, now take the grease and grease up your hands. Get all over your hands. I was like, okay. He said, now stick your hands inside my hole. I said, he just literally walked me through this experience. And as it turned out, there's a lot of feeling sensation on your fingers. And it is highly, highly erotic for me to have my hand inside of somebody where I'm actually feeling the inside of them. And I've felt many of the outsides of guys before, but I've never felt the inside of somebody before. And this was absolutely incredible. And I was like rock hard. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And, and we had the little sex adventure went on. He ended up jerking off. I ended up jerking off. And then it was just, that's how it was. And having his hand around, or his ass around my hand as he came was an amazing feeling. And anyway, so that little sexual adventure ended, and I went to Mr. S Leather, and I was buying some leather gear, and I took all my leather gear up to the front desk, and the guy says, "Oh, you're into fisting?" I said, "No." And he's like, "Oh, well, you're buying leather that has all this red trim." He says, "If you're not into fisting," he says, "this is all about fisting." And I was like, "Oh, and I was just horrified, and the guy says. And I said, oh, well, I did have this experience recently where I fisted a guy, and I kind of gave him the very quick storyline of what I just told you. And he goes, oh, sweetie. And he pulled something down. He says, here's a Fisting 101 class. I think you need to come to that. And I thought, oh, my God, Fisting 101, okay. And I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. It's something that you like. It's something you just realized that you actually like. And as he showed me, he says the first part of the day is all going to be theory. It's going to be like whiteboard. You're going to get handouts. You're going to learn all about safety, cleanup, sanitation. You're going to learn all these things about fisting. And the second half of the day is going to be hands-on, or as he said, or hands-in. And he says, and you can either be a top or a bottom, or both. And I thought, oh, fuck, okay. and I thought, I got to do this. So I signed up, and I went. And it was the first time I ever had somebody's fingers inside my own ass. And I got to say, it was the most amazing thing I couldn't take a whole fist, but the actual action of being stretched, just being like literally stretched by somebody who knew what they were doing. When I was done, I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. I think everybody up on fucking Capitol Hill, every fucking senator, once a month should have I feel like they're a fisting, because it's just, So, in sobriety, I got to learn that one of the things that I had imagined was something that other people besides me did. In sobriety, I got to find out, no, that's something that I like to do. It's something that I'm into, and it's something that I'm proud of. And so I tell you that because really this whole sex and sobriety thing is about finding out who and what you are in bed or at the bathhouse without the substance. Because I know who I was with the substance, but I didn't know who I was without the substance. So That's really what true, good, sober sex is all about, is finding out what and who you really are. And so my thought with a meeting like this is to just begin to explore all these sorts of things. So there's a little story about me. I would like to introduce Gordon, who's going to tell you about his sexual story.
Oh,
Please help me to welcome him.
Thank you. My name's Gordon. I'm an alcoholic and an ex-tweaker and probably a sex addict now that I think about it. Thank you, Nikas. I actually met Nikas online, and we had some sexual encounters, which were great, and we've become really great friends since then. And we just recently met each other at the bathhouse again, where we've discussed me coming out and sharing. I've tried to do this a couple times, but my schedule just didn't allow for me to do this. So, I have a little apprehension, there's a lot of apprehension here because, this is something that we don't normally talk about in the rooms. And, I've got my own little secrets, I sort of have a fetish for people shooting up online. And, I've not totally outgrown my addiction. I've stayed sober for 8 years. I have not picked up. I've been in every sort of fucking situation you could possibly imagine, but I've remained sober. And I guess that's pretty much what came up for me this morning is that I was like, well, what do I share? And then I was like, well, don't share that. And I started editing my truth. And then I thought, well, you know what? Then that means that there's something that you're holding on to that you're not really free yet. So, that's my truth. My truth is that I'm an ex-junkie and I still get off jacking off and watching, shooting up videos. And, I still like going to the bathhouse and I'm a predator. And I like the ones that are all knocked out at the bathhouse and they're all sketchy because I know exactly what I'm going to get. I mean, that's really the truth. Am I proud of it? It is what it is. I try not to judge myself too hard. I did a whole life of judging myself and beating myself up and making me even worse than I already was. That's just where I wound up, and, by the grace of God, I'll have 8 years on the 4th of July, and again, like I said, I've been through every sort of predicament, online, truck stop, bookstore, back alley, park. I mean, I've done it all, and I've done it all sober, so I can tell you that in spite of what my fetishes are and all the judgment they may come from the program, I'm totally content with it. I've talked to my sponsor about it. I've worked around it. And you know what? There are times when I think to myself, God, this is so wrong. And then what I'll do is I'll pray about it. I learned early on that I should pray about my sex, and like Nikas had shared. And for the most part, that's always worked out well for me. But anyway, so the back end of that is that when I see that all go down, there is a part of me that's like, oh, wow, these people went through what you went through, and where's your level of compassion in this now? And I stop. Now I'm a binge porn watcher. Like I'll do it for a while, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling bad about myself. And then I'll stop for a while. So anyway, so that's where I'm at with this whole thing. And then it was, this whole thing about, the guest pass. And I thought, I shared this with the sponsee. I said, I'm going to be sharing at the sex forum. Do you want to come? And he said, no, I don't think it's okay for me. Now, there's a lot of judgment that comes with the program. Again, like I said, a lot of people don't talk about this whole sex thing. I've gone to lots of sex and sobriety meetings, and, it was basically, like who's wearing the cutest leather outfit, or, what's the harness of the week, that sort of thing. And that's great, that's all fine. For me, that's all just part of the costuming that goes with all that whole thing. But there's a certain amount of people that are really into the whole fetish thing. I've fisted, I've done fisting, I've done dildo play, I've done water sports, I've done acrobats and, all sorts of stuff. Well, I'll tell you that, I was one of those tweakers that, I was a bathhouse roundabout. I call it, I was a spar, and I would like go, this is back in the day when, they had the chat line. The chat line never worked out. I'm dating myself. The chat line never really worked out. So I would go to the bathhouse, and the bathhouse was a safe place for me to get loaded in, and I knew everybody was on the same page, so I felt really safe there. And so I would just go to the next one, and I would do my, you'd have to check out, and, I remember one time I was at the Hollywood Spa and it was like, 163, it's time to leave the building. And I'm like, I don't know where I was, but anyway, I never showed up, so I had to pay all these late fees, and then it happened to be a Sunday fucking morning, right? And then boom, you're right in the fucking farmer's market. Fucking hateful, you're trying to, hit the remote control with your toe and still look cute. It was just a lot of fucking work. It was a lot of fucking work. So anyway, so the bathhouses are a great safe place for me, The nice thing about being at a sex house is I get a variety. I go to the sex club, I get a variety. I can sort of pick and choose who I want. And, there's a sort of level of desirability when I go there to these places because the gentlemen are a little bit older, and they're looking for something. So I'll put on a show or I'll be an exhibitionist or whatever, It's like whatever makes me feel good, And so I still go to the bathhouses and I do it more on a social thing. I socialize with people that I meet in the program. And I see a lot of people that are in the program that are no longer in the program. And I make no judgments when I'm there. I say hello to them anyway. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And if they choose to talk to me, great. If they don't, there's nothing I can do about that. And I pray about that. I even pray to myself about, my fetish for the shooting up thing, It's probably not a good idea, but it's just part of who I am, again. So anyway, my backstory. So I got sober, and like I said, I was a junkie, and I was a real prude for my first year. I was like, I can't have sex, I'm not going to do it. I reestablished my life by being accountable to coming to meetings, and I worked really hard. I came to this room every morning for the first 2 years of my sobriety at 7:30 every morning. I did volunteer work. I started to get some integrity, and I got some self-esteem because people were holding me accountable to my actions. And as a result of that, I was able to put together 3 years and then 4 years. And then finally I sort of came out of my shell and I thought, okay, well, you're horny now. You really need to go out and, you need to suck some dick, whatever, you need to get into it. And I started the online profiles and I did that whole thing and I was into it. I was into it. And it was like, it was endless. And then it came to a point where it was like, I'm sort of exhausted. This is sort of, when it doesn't work out, then you get disappointed, then you have a resentment. And then I found myself back in this whole circle of not being satisfied, right? And so I stopped the online thing. And I'm an online binger as well. I go on, I got off. Well, I'll tell you what happened is about 2 years ago, I met somebody at the bathhouse, and we sort of had been hooking up for a while. And turned out that we started dating, and it was nothing totally committed at that point. And it's sort of, I've had this relationship now for 2 years. And I don't know that he's the love of my life, but he's definitely my best friend. For the past 8 months, it's been a non-sexual relationship. And I say that only to say that it's not that I don't find him desirable, but that the level of intimacy that I get from this is far beyond what I ever got out there looking online. The validation, the immediate satisfaction, the getting off, the being looked at, admired, desired, all that sort of stuff. This is beyond that. This is about me recognizing me in the eyes of somebody else who finds me really beautiful. And I get really emotional about that because for a while I was holding on to this relationship thinking that I can't let this go because I'm never going to find this again. And I beat myself up and I beat myself up and I beat myself up for that. Like, you're just doing this for all the wrong reasons. You can't be leading this guy on. And then one day I got sick and tired, like I did when I was getting loaded and when I was doing the online profile and I was doing the video thing. And I realized that I needed to sort of change my outlook on the whole thing. And I came up with something that was something to the effect of, we outgrow things, and now I'm ingrowing something, right? I'm creating roots in this relationship. And he's had a history of meth addiction, I can't make that call. He's a periodic. He gets out once in a while, and then he disappears for 2 days, and I get really resentful, and I get jealous, and all this sort of stuff. And this whole sex thing is a very uncomfortable thing for him as well, And so when we talk about it, and like, let's have sex, it starts getting uncomfortable. And so we decided to just let that whole thing go. And we have this amazing relationship. I miss him terribly. He's been away for this long extended trip in Europe right now. And I just can't wait for him to get home. Now, am I completely anonymous to him? No. Monogamous. Anonymous. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not monogamous. And that's something that we established together. We established that together. When he goes and does his thing, it's his business. My big concern is that he doesn't come up with an STD. So that's sort of where I'm at now. I mean, I'm very sort of conscious about where I go. I'm very selective when I go to the bathhouse. I normally don't bottom in situations like that. I get an STD test every 3 months, and honey, those STD they come back positive a lot. And I can't control any of that. I can't control what somebody's not give a true disclaimer to me. But I know for myself that I can own up to that when I'm free. And if I'm positive, then I call the people, because I have like a handful of people that are regulars. Occasionally I'll go to the bathhouse and suck a dick or something like that. But for the most part, the people that penetrate me are people that I know. So I sort of know that core group. So anyway, so I'll be sober 8 years, and like I said, I've not done any of this perfectly. I have maintained my sobriety throughout the whole thing, and things change. Things change. Like, I haven't felt the need to go online and check out these videos. I haven't felt the need. I just got back from Palm Springs. I was there for working on a project, and I stopped at the All World and, hung out there for a while. And, I'm totally okay with being at those places. I think it's, for me, like I said, it's a safe place. I know exactly what to expect. And if I ever feel uncomfortable, I know how to walk away. Like, I've been in situations, like I said, where people are shooting up or they're smoking meth. And honestly, it doesn't really bother me. I don't feel triggered at all by that. But I would say to everybody out there that there's a level of intention that comes with these things for me. And if my intention is in the right place, I think I can be safe. And with that intention, that's come a lot of work. That's a lot of 8 years of sobriety and recovery and working through it and talking about it and finding my way through the whole thing. And it hasn't come easy. There has been some hardships along the way, But, the fact is I'm a gay, sober male, and I've got a sexual appetite, and there's nothing wrong with that. For the longest time, little backstory, I used to be a porn star and, all this other stuff. And so I thought that my identity was caught up in all that. I still, God forbid, Terry Sue said, "Oh, honey, I was with Boy the other day and I came across your video." And I thought, oh, God. Anyway, so, that stuff comes up all the time. And, for the longest time, I felt like that was my identity. Like, I had to sort of show that off. And I realized and it was great. It was sort of my way to sort of get through things, and it was a way to sort of build my confidence. But now, my confidence comes from a whole different place. It comes from me having integrity and being a like-minded person and giving back to the community and, owning my truth, And, I've come a long way from where I was, a long way. I was emaciated. I had abscesses all over my body. I was infecting people with HIV. Like I said, I was a predator. I was a real predator, and I didn't disclose any of that stuff. And as a result, I'm sure there's lots of people out there who were probably been infected by me for my behavior. Now, what I do with that is I have a living amends. Like I said, I will fully disclose. If I get a clean STD check, if something goes wrong and it's not clean, then I'll own up to that, to whoever that needs to happen to, and I take care of it. I go and I get treated. I hold and I abstain from anything. And I tell my boyfriend, look, we haven't had sex for a while, but, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for that sort of stuff. And that's the tools that I got in the program, So I'm really grateful that there's a forum, Nikas. I, have a lot of judgment about this whole thing when I came in, but, I sort of have this, I feel a little bit lighter knowing that I've sort of shared that truth about my online thing. And I know that I'm not the only one out there, There's tons of websites just dedicated to that sort of thing. And, so I'm extremely grateful that I'd be sober, this long, and I encourage people that if they feel confident enough that they can go and they can experience their sexuality in a way that's going to be safe. I called my sponsor a lot of times. I would call people in the program and be like, "Look, I'm horny. What do I do?" And they're like, "Honey, take God with you." So I've done that a lot, and I pray. If something goes wrong or I'm feeling uncomfortable, I will take myself out of the scenario. That's the other important thing. If I feel uncomfortable at all, I'll just walk away. I don't know anybody, anything at the bathhouse. Nothing. And, I have a really good relationship with my higher power, and he loves me and forgives me no matter what, no matter what I do. But I try not to do those whatevers, you know what I mean? I try to stay out of that way so I don't have to come back and, reapproach the whole thing. So anyway, that's really all I have to share, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gordon. And next up is David.
I'm David. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, David.
So sex and sobriety. To tell you a little bit about my sobriety, I first got sober in 1987. Was sober for 12 years, and then moved from New York City to Palm Springs, and within 6 months started drinking again. And was out for 5 years. Now I'm back for 11 years. So I just celebrated 11 years on May 1st, which I'm very proud of. It's interesting, when I got sober in New York in '87, I had really hit rock bottom, and my drug of choice really is alcohol. And back in the 70s and 80s, we had a thing called Quaaludes, which were my drug of choice. I like sobers and suds. A beer and a Quaalude did me fine. When I got sober, though, I had a lesbian sponsor, and I was 26 years old. And for the first 90 days, there was to be no sex. And the reason for that was I really needed to concentrate on me. My brain was scrambled eggs, and her advice to me was, whatever you think of doing, do the opposite, because we have an 80% chance better that we'll succeed. Because all of my choice making was bad. If I thought I wanted to stay in bed all day, make bed and go to a meeting, get out of the house. If I wanted to go out to the bars, stay in and watch Golden Girls. It was all just do the opposite, because your brain has been telling you to do the wrong thing for so long. And at 90 days, she lifted the ban on sex. And she knew that being 26 years old, I had a better chance of succeeding if I didn't throw everything of my life away. It's like we've taken alcohol and drugs away from you. We have to approach sexuality in a responsible way. And so there were rules that she laid out. And one of the rules, and many have heard this and think it's crazy, if I wanted to go out and have sex, I had to first have a sandwich. And I was like, I don't like having sex on a full stomach. And she was like, exactly. Now, I start my bargaining with her, and I'm like, can it be like really thin spread, like a smear of peanut butter? And no, it has to be a meat sandwich. It has to be on a Kaiser roll. And the reason is, and I wasn't ever allowed to ask questions. It's like, well, why? Why a sandwich? It's like, shut the fuck up and just do what I tell you. The reason for the sandwich is sometimes our brain is telling us we want one thing, and then we end up finding out we're either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And sometimes after eating that sandwich, I was really hungry, I wasn't horny. Or sometimes after eating that sandwich, I found I was also tired, and then I wouldn't go out. Now, that being said, I did have a lot of sex that first year on a full stomach. But at least what it was doing was making sure that I was going out with the right intentions, because I needed to sit there and stop, make this stupid sandwich, sit down and eat it, and really think, do I want to go out? And if I was going out, then I was going out with the proper intentions of, I just really wanted to have sex. The other thing was, I was supposed to have at least one other person, if not a group, go out with me. Now, to me, I didn't like cruising with a group. I don't like cock blockers. I don't like competition. And I don't also like people knowing that that's what I'm doing. But if you don't like people knowing what you're doing, then you're kind of hiding some shame. So I call my friend David or Anthony or whatever, and we go to the Spike or the Eagle, and then I'd meet somebody, and they judge them, and I was like, fuck you, you don't have to sleep with them, and don't you dare go near them, and that was my first year of sobriety, and her other rule was I was not allowed to get into a relationship with any of these people. It was something of, you're not going to make that sexual partner your higher power. You're not going to base your entire life around this and then have it spinning out of control when it doesn't work out. Go, have your fun, be upfront, be honest of what this is all about. Don't, start making promises or whatever. Tell them you're sober. Tell them, that this is what the deal is, and that you're not ready. And it worked for me. I mean, I was sober 12 years, so those little baby steps helped me. When I turned 50, I opened a company that dealt with the fetish leather community. It was an accessories company. And it put me in an entire stratosphere of sexual encounters and sexual parties and things like that. And it was really strictly for business for me because I needed to be there to have a presence. And I had to learn, and it was never really a learning process for me. I just had to know when it's time for me to leave. I always show up at parties early, and I leave early. You'll probably find me every weekend at the Eagle. I know all the bartenders. All the bartenders know I don't drink. And I'll go at 9 o'clock, and I'll leave at 11. Even ballet knows, because they don't even take my car far away, because they know that I'll be coming out the door at 11, and why should they run for it? I've learned how to safeguard myself in things that I know. I just don't want to be listening to the same story 7 times. And after 20 shots, hearing, you're the greatest and I really like you. It's like, thank you so much, but I think it's time I go. I have no interest in having sex with people on drugs. I have no interest in having sex with drunk people. I have no issue with people doing drugs or drinking. I will be the first to buy somebody a drink if I'm with them and they're drinking beer or doing shots or whatever. It's like, I'm happy to do that because they can do that. But I don't need to engage in having sex with you. I don't like kissing somebody and tasting liquor on their breath. I don't like giving somebody a blowjob and smelling pot on their body. There are things that I just don't like in sobriety. I don't need to be reminded where I used to be by somebody passing out in bed in the middle of having sex with them. So I don't need any of that. With that said, I also don't prowl the rooms looking for sexual partners. I just, for some reason, attract sober people in the weirdest places. I will be at a sex party and just like how somebody's handling themselves and go start talking to them. and then find out, I'm sober too. And all of a sudden, we might become girlfriends. It's like I was attracted to you, but now we're chatty Cathy at a sex party and being told to shut the fuck up or we'll take this now, because you're blowing the whole thing here. But there's a lot of sober people out at these events. And it really helps ground me because then I realize I'm not the only sober person here. If I go to the baths and walk into a room and there's a pipe and poppers and even like the water bottle, you have to start questioning what is in it. If the person's acting odd, I bow out. And it's not because I'm worried that I'm going to pick up. I just don't want to be around it. And that's just my thing. I don't watch any porn. I have a lot of porn star friends, and I don't want to watch family having sex together. So most of my friends who are in the business, I don't even know if they're tops or bottoms. They're just my friends. I never did crystal, so I'm that unicorn or whatever that, it's like, ooh, you never tried it? But I know that drug and sex seem to have a real, web built into it that can be very dangerous and very toxic. And I feel very fortunate that I never tried meth and I never got hooked into it. Any profiles I have online strictly say no party and play. And it might say it a couple of times. And the reason for that is I just want to put it out there. I don't need to say, I'm in recovery, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to explain myself. I just don't party and play. And if you party and play, please move on. And does it set me up for rejection? Yes. But I'm being rejected by people that I don't want to have sex with, even as good looking as they are. I don't want to make an exception because, you have washboard abs and are, oh my God, yes, okay, you're a pass. I don't want to make exceptions. And I think it's because I think I'm worth it. I'm worth having sex with somebody who's present. Who can look you in the eye while you're doing it and be in the moment as opposed to off in outer space somewhere or, twitching and going, did someone knock on the door? And it's like, geez, cool, Mary. So, it's everybody has to find their comfort zone in going to these places. You have to know when to bow out. You have to know what your parameters are. You have to know when it's safe for you to go. And when you can figure that out, and having a friend there is always a good thing because you don't feel like the odd man out. You don't feel like I'm the only one not doing this. That's, I don't have the magic wand. I just know what works for me, and that's it. And I have come across, I also will come across sometimes where I'll fool around with somebody and then find out they have 20 days sober, and can we get together again? And I'm of the thing of, I want to become your friend, and I don't want to possibly detriment your sobriety. And so I don't like 13 stuffing people. So as much as I might find them attractive and found them attractive and not known, we become friends, and I'll become friends with you on Facebook and stuff. The other thing is, if any of you see me at a party, I do say hello. You paid the $15 to get in here. I paid the $15 to get in here. And we don't need to go spreading it that I saw so-and-so at so-and-so party. But I'm not going to pretend you're a stranger. You know, I'm not gonna like look the other way and be like, you know, I'm so ashamed of myself. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Okay, go ahead. You know. Carry on. One of the bullet points was, you know, are you an exhibitionist? And I can be at times. And I don't care if somebody's over's watching me. I'm having fun. I think sex should be fun. I think at the end of it, you should walk with a little bounce in your step and a smile on your face and feel like, gosh, that was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great time. And if you don't, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I try to leave every sexual experience with kind of a happy face and a good night's sleep. And maybe a sandwich at the end. I'll eat the sandwich afterwards. So that's really all I have to tell you. And I hope, you know, some of it made sense. So, you know, I didn't think it all the way through. So I'm just happy to be part of this, and I hope somebody can decipher something from it and use it. So thank you, Nikas.
Thanks, David. Okay, so we'll take a 15-minute break and come back in 15 minutes. Think if you got any questions you got specifically for these guys regarding their stories or anything regarding your story, how it's kind of reflected back to you. And then we'll get into the forum discussion topic of sex clubs and bathhouses after the Q&A. Thank you.
Yay.